Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'd like to welcome everybody to Truelogic DX. For a lot of the people participating, you already know who I am. I've probably met a lot of you guys in person. And the reason we decided to start this session is because this is a successor to the digital conversations we began 4 years ago, beginning with Digitize the Philippines. For any of you that have ever attended events that we've hosted or any events that we've spoken at, you'll know how we stress that these are conversations, and the quality of the interaction, that the quality of your interaction makes this session more meaningful. So if you've got the ability to enable your cameras, I encourage you to do so. Whenever we take notes, if you must, and if you've got questions, drop your questions anytime at the comment box where our moderators will line them up for us and we'll answer as many as we can on the latter part of the program. I'd like to stress again, what you put into the experience what you get out of the experience depends on what you put in. So I'd like to begin the conversation off by saying that when we began sheltering in place in March 16, I actually thought I'd get some downtime on lecturing, seeing as how we can't get together, all venues are closed. But requests for sessions like these have actually only increased, and it's mind-boggling, personally. Understandable given the current situation that we're in. So before I get us started and before I introduce the guest that we have this afternoon, I did want to do a quick lay of the land by talking briefly about the situation that we're in. And everybody knows sort of the downside, right, about how the economy slows down a bit and every country's feeling it. It's a once-in-a-lifetime, once-in-a-century event that nobody could have predicted. But in spite of that, there are some slivers of hope. Like take, for example, in 2020 alone, online payments are up. There's always been friction in creating true contactless, fully digital transactions in the Philippines. Given the size of the population that's unbanked and even fewer credit card holders, when the Bangko Sentral started accounting for online transactions in the Philippines, it was at 1% of all transactions. That translates to about 26 million online payments per month against 2.5 billion transactions. But at the close of 2018, that amounted to about 490 million transactions per month. So as you can see, it grew by a factor of nearly 20. Total digital commerce has grown by 40%. That's already net of ride sharing. That's the amount of people buying things online, because online is now the only place where we can get our stuff. And the Philippines' annual increase usually dances at about 21 to 24%. But in 2020 alone versus the same period in 2019, it's grown by 40%. Internet penetration in the country has increased. Normally, it's at about 44% if you listen to Google, 44% if you listen to Facebook, 65%. And Philippine ISPs have reported that in June, they've seen roughly a 16% increase in subscriptions, and the utilization of the internet is even higher. Even small businesses are adapting, right? You're seeing these people that are running their home stores, and they're creating Facebook merchant pages. And right before the lockdown, only 31% of Filipino adults could pay digitally, and only 15% of merchants had the ability to accept online payments. The pandemic has drastically changed this, with aggressive campaigns coming from brands like BDO, Visa, PayMaya, Mint, Union Bank, just to name a few. Everything I've outlined so far shows how the crisis has created opportunities and how necessity can be the mother of invention for all of us, right? And people have taken to digital, and it's probably irreversibly accelerated the adoption of Filipinos to digital by leaps and bounds. So, having set the background for our conversation, let's get started. We're lucky to have one of the most admired leaders in digital marketing, actually I would say in digital and marketing, with us today. I'm not sure that Donald needs much of an introduction. I think his name is a household name. If I were to describe his career, it's been very intrepid. He's been a leader in marketing and digital for almost as long as I've been in digital, and he's trailblazing companies like Yehe, ABS-CBN, Dentsu Aegis, and now at Udena. And I'm not even talking about the side projects. So to introduce the topic of the afternoon to us and get us a better lay of the land, let me introduce and welcome Mr. Donald Lim. Donald?
Hi, Bernard. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
I think everybody's interested to know what your insights are, so we'll give a couple of minutes to dive into some of your insights.
Sure, thank you. So when I was asked to share my insights, I felt that maybe it would be best if I share with everyone a quick presentation. No more than 10 minutes, but just to give everyone a perspective. No, for the longest time, for the past 100 more than 100 days, we've seen how our businesses, our lives have changed. No, like what you said, Bernard. No, and I think the biggest are really businesses. What is really very challenging and sometimes hurtful to a lot of the businessmen is that we've been successful in some ways or form, that the economy is doing well, everything is doing okay, and then this pandemic came about, and we realized, okay, we're helpless, right? So, for example, for me, my last so I'm also a businessman. Like my last 4 investments are really into restaurants and related to that. No, so now we're thinking about, do we close? Do we not close? Is the pandemic, will it stay forever, right? Or hopefully with the regular quarantine, will we be able to do business? No. So I think just to give another perspective, so I'm with you, Dena. So that these are the group of companies, no, and like what I've said, it's also our flagship is Phoenix, 888 is Contis and Wendy's. Those who are on the retail side, of course, are in a way very much hit. So imagine one day you wake up and the president says no one's going out. Do you imagine all the gas stations are empty, right? All the restaurants are not open, right? So things like that, and that's the reality we face. Even for example, our shipping line, no, to go super ferry, all of that, no, and no one is riding. So it was really a wake up call for all of us, no, and to think that we some of us are professors, we're experts in our field, and you realize whatever you've taught with, just you throw it out the door because you cannot apply them anymore. No. So let me start by saying, this is my favorite quote during this pandemic. And this is actually the former mayor of Chicago, Ram, said, "You never let a serious crisis go to waste." And what I mean by that is an opportunity to do things you could never not do before. Hopefully, this is also a wake up call for us. Maybe we don't want to dwell on the negative, on what we can't do, but actually focus on what we can do and what we should do. So if you take a look at the perspective now, why is this very challenging for most of us? I think if this was the SEA Games, or the Asian Games medal tally, it would have been nice. But the reality is that's the total number of cases. This is updated as of September 1, 224,000. So which is almost the size of the United States already, right, in the terms of the total cases. So we have 62 still live cases, and that's a bit worrisome. But at the same time, we've reached a point where we are not going to flatten the curve anymore. There's no such thing as flattening. We will live with the virus. And I think that's the reality all of us in business are taking, right? So it's okay. We will not flatten the curve because there's no hope maybe in flattening the curve, maybe next year na yun. So this year, we will live with the virus. We will have to open our doors in our stores, and we have to interact. So it's going to be every day, face mask, face shield out, right? So we're fully garbed, so that when we go out, then that's how we're going to do business, how we're going to transact, and how we're going to conduct meetings. So yesterday I was in the office, right, and even our guard was like, I was going to the washroom, I forgot my face mask, and he said, "Sir, you cannot go." And I'm, we're like 5 people of us are in that massive floor, but I still have to wear the face mask, right? So that's a new reality for all of us. And why is this so interesting and at the same time challenging? It's a challenge like many of us have never seen before. The circumstances are taking us beyond our knowledge and capabilities. There's an avalanche of information, hard to know what is correct. There are competing priorities. Do we want to keep our people healthy? Tell them to work from home, or do we want to keep the business going? If the business is going, many of us, especially in the retail, we have to get people inside the store and man the store. Right? It's a highly dynamic situation. It changes by the minute. We will not know what, again, our president will call, if it's tomorrow or today or whatever. It's going to be, again, enhanced quarantine, modified, whatever quarantine you call it, right? And again, it's highly dynamic. The endpoint is not at all clear. High stakes, high uncertainty, and decisions have to be made under stress in real time. So it's not as if we have enough problems with our business already. Now we have to contend with real external macro effects that is happening. And having said that, how I would term 2020, I got this from my head of strategy in Dentsu before. He said me a very interesting slide, and he says 2020 in summary is what you call the great pause, right? So that work may not have slowed down if we can help it. However, the extended lockdown period has restricted physically visiting the workplace for many, socialization, travel, and general recreation. From the fast pace that governed our days and weekends, these restrictions have forced to slow down what some call the great pause. So this period will change how we move, work, learn, live, play, travel, govern, and it will change everything. And in the history books, COVID-19 pandemic will be named along with the world wars, the Industrial Revolution. And these are movements that completely reshaped and reconfigured society. No? And that's how we will be living moving forward. If you think about it, this is also one of the biggest, some of you may be old enough in 1997 financial crisis. That time most of us are graduating from college, and we felt the pinch there, but a lot of the business were still continuing. This was the real time when you've seen so many businesses, and it's getting nearer and near to home because we're seeing not only 1, 2, but many of our friends are getting unemployed. 1, 2 and more of our friends are getting na positive C, ganyan. And of course, 1, 2 of our friends' businesses or someone within our circle are closing down because of COVID. So when you Google COVID business closures, no, when you just have a quick Google, even the big institutions have actually closed down. Marco Polo Davao, you're seeing even the Honda, Isuzu dealerships. Actually, there's a long list, no. And even if you look at it globally, you're seeing Zara closing up 1,200 fashion stores around the world, Uniqlo closing all US stores. That is telling you already, Sometimes things like this, it's very important for you to act fast, decide and act very fast, rather than continue with the bleeding. I believe some of you and some of us, I would say even myself included, when we had some of the restaurants in operations, we were hoping okay, March, April, May, okay na yan. We'll be okay by June, by July. And yet nothing has happened. We're still in the same situation where we were during March, April, May. Right? So if you think about it, it's just we have adapted better now. Before we were all scared, we were all like we don't know what to do. I think now we're starting to live with the virus already. And I think what is very interesting is that if you look at it, when this was by BCG, when they were analyzing before when the COVID struck, and this is the healthcare system, there was actually a surplus of critical care patients, and that's why a lot of the hospitals are saying no more, not available, no more beds, right? But then, of course, the healthcare capacity went up and the COVID cases went a bit down. But we actually did the camel hump, We had the 2 humps. It went down and we went up again. And now we're also facing some, I just passed by BGC St. Luke's yesterday. Okay, no, not available again. No room for COVID patients, right? Same also in Makati Med, right? So we have a double hump, But I think we're also nearing already what is called the restart phase, We've seen the economy dropping during March 16, and that's going to be a flat economy, but hopefully we're in this stage where finish or not finish, ready or not, we will have to restart, right? And that this is where we are, And if you think about when will we be back to business, this is the normal trend, at index at 100%. We'll be far from that. The fight phase, as we are entering right now, it's going to be very critical because most businesses will now be scrambling towards getting what is the limited monies out there. Whether you're an ad agency, a marketing person, you're in retail, there is lesser money going around. Let's say assume 50%. We will now have to fight for that 50%. So it's not about just sales and marketing per se, but that has become so important, right? How you do marketing, how you get people into your store. But you also have to learn how to manage your operations so you will not, what I call, bleed to death. Like some companies who are actually happening. And then that's why in many cases we have to master what we call the business pivot, right? If you're a fan of basketball, you know that when you make a move, if you move your right, you cannot move your left anymore. And when you make a pivot, like in basketball, right? If you move the left, then it's traveling, right? But meaning when you make a pivot, from looking at the left, you can look to the right. But it's all about shifting, making a business shift without moving away from your board. For the past 3 months, so many people are asking me what business they want to go to, and I would always say the last thing I want to tell you is go into the business of face masks and face shields and alcohol. That's the obvious one, but that's not business. That's opportunistic business. After less than a year, that you will go down, and that's not sustainable. You have to always understand, like any business, it's always, regardless of the up and down of the economy, your core would always be your passion, what you're very knowledgeable in, what makes you, what keeps you awake at night, and what pushes you out of the bed every morning. That's your core, right? That's your passion. So always stay true to that. But you have to make a business pivot. Meaning, when you make it a business, when you commercialize it, how do you make that pivot? So there is no business that is alive today who hasn't done that given COVID. And that is also the seriousness of how the COVID pandemic is. We are all forced to make that business pivot. So sales and marketing wise, that's very important. Operationally, I mean, you've seen already circulating Jollibee letting go of people, right? There's the letter that has been circulating, and everyone else, actually, some as open as that, some, and I'm sure, regardless of the big names, how big the company is, they're also letting go of people, right? So what is certain is what you call a black swan. This is a black swan event, what you call a black swan, right? Extremely rare events with large impact and potentially severe consequences. Black swan events create lasting change. 9/11 actually forced everyone to have stricter aviation security. All the airports in the world now have to have thorough checks before you get in, right? World War II, you see women joining the workforce because of depleted workforce. SARS actually prompted the e-commerce boom in China. So COVID, will actually prompted the world, and especially in our world here in the Philippines, it will also change. People say it won't change, we'll be back to normal. Actually, it won't. So we're seeing already how, and this is one of my favorite examples. I got an email a month ago by Marriott because I was subscribed to their database, and they're saying, if you cannot have a Marriott experience in our hotel, then why don't you experience Marriott in your home? And they're selling the Marriott bed, they're selling pillows, linens, beddings, but who would have thought they would do that? Right, and so that's an example I like to share. It's a pivot, right? You don't force people to come to you, right? But you think of alternative business models, how you can push and generate alternative revenue. So what we call inorganic, inorganic, I mean, totally different, And we've seen again, the chicken joy is being sold in supermarkets. Potato Corner will never give you their fries. It has to be cooked when you order it, and now they're selling it to even frozen ones. Yusho and Mendokoro, all the ramen houses before, even if you don't finish your ramen, you cannot take it out. Now they're forcing all of you to take home, right? The ramen kit and set up yourself. And even the learning, it's a Global Art, among others, Center for Pop, they're actually now training and doing tutoring online. I'm sure some of you who have kids in private schools, they're all forced to actually undergo online learning already. Even my favorite brand, Uniqlo, right? Airisim. They've been promoting Airisim, but again, this is a good pivot, right? They did not. This is their core offering, their core product, and now it's Airisim washable face mask, right? And this was one of the most sold items even when it was introduced in Japan, and also when it was introduced here. So they remain true to the core, but at the same time, they made and adjusted to the times. For example, in Family Mart, people cannot come to Family Mart. We went out to them. We actually have Fam on Wheels. At the same time, for example, Phoenix, while the oil and gas, gasoline, people are not gassing up, LPG actually went up because people are at home, they're cooking, and they're doing so many side businesses. So we delivered to them. There were some of the spouses of some of our employees where their spouses have been displaced at work. We actually gave them, okay, we have a lot of products in Family Mart. Set up your own mini grocery inside your house, right? So we're rethinking of totally different business. Actually, there's a lot. You'll see a lot of convergence. For example, in Family Mart, you will see Conti's cakes being sold there. And even our frozen food are being sold in Family Mart. So we're rethinking everything, how we do our business. Before, they were very siloed. So I think the challenge for all of us is how do we make a business pivot from this? Because if you do not make that pivot, nothing will happen. And maybe let me end just very quickly with a quote from Jack Ma. Says, opportunity lies in where the complaints are. And as we've seen, so many people complaining, so many people having a hard time. That is also where the opportunity lies for all of us. If you want to create alternative forms of business, how you can sustain your enterprise. So now we're seeing, so it's Burmans, right? Mm-hmm. Merry Christmas to everyone, right? So as the dust is settling, let's all, let me end with my favorite hashtag, COVID is forever. Let's have a mindset. that let's not wait for COVID to go away. As a business owner, responsible for our enterprise and for our employees and for our customers. With the mindset of COVID is forever, let's try to readjust our business so that we can continuously serve our customers, so that we can continuously create an organization for our employees also. So hopefully, we have minimum damage. As we actually make, again, 2020 is a great pause. But after pause, it's play, right? 2021 is going to be a play session. How will we prepare our company when everything is hopefully back to normal? What will happen? How did we reinvent our organization moving forward? So that's a little something I prepared just for everyone, so that we can discuss further, maybe details or anything else.
Yeah. Thank you, Donald. Actually, a lot of the questions that we have revolve around some of the samples that you made. Like I'll jump into the first portion of the conversation. Sure. Is never letting a crisis go to waste. Yep. I also like that quote from Ram Emanuel. Which brands do you think have been remarkable at leveraging this opportunity? Have any of them been remarkable at turning this into opportunity?
I think no one will say that they've been remarkable, only because this is so new. I've worked with a lot of multinational companies. Even today, I've been helping some, consulting for them, especially in my past life in an agency. So there are some clients who kept in touch. You will see snippets of successes in advertising, right? There's a sardine brand who was able to capitalize on that in the messaging. So many CSR efforts, right? I think who would be able to capitalize it? Maybe let's see, once the year ends. But even up to now, everyone is struggling. I think you're seeing already once August comes in. Once August came, and now we're September. Everyone realized COVID is forever. Everyone would have that mindset that is the new reality. We will have to live with COVID, and therefore, because things will not go back to normal, we have to start letting go of people. We have to start right-sizing the business. We have to start, and it's not remarkable because we hope that the story we were hoping is that there's a business who would have overcome it, who overcame this, became so successful. But again, no one was prepared for this. Right? So maybe there are some, even the tech companies who would tell you, our friends from Globe and Smart maybe would say, online transactions have increased like to 300%. Right? But in the end, you're seeing also that there are so many challenges, because now they have to support it from a customer support side. They have to support it on so many levels. In fact, the if you think about the real winners, it opened up a new digital economy, and at the same time, so many people just become entrepreneurs, overnight entrepreneurs. Right? From the sushi bakes to everything.
Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing a lot even on Facebook. Like there are more merchants there now than ever before. That's an example. What about the fintech industry? Because I'm seeing a lot of noise coming from Grab, Kashalo, GCash, Maya. Like they're really moving on, driving awareness for people, empowering e-commerce. Are they moving fast enough, in your opinion? Because I think it accelerates like really fast, and it's a question of, can the private companies that enable commerce keep up with the pace? GCash submitted a report in June saying that their subscriptions went up by 150%, like the number of people that was subscribed to them, not by 50%, but by 150%.
Well, I think the fintech would be, it's not even the fintech. I think the industry, the digital industry actually are the clear winners. But I would like to put a caution to that, because when you say winners, it just means that before they have to do aggressive marketing, but now they don't have to because the customers are coming in. But if once the customers started to come in, you also have to scale up, right? Yeah. Which also brings up your costs. So in a way, it's been successful in digitizing the entire country. In a way, we also have to start choosing which is your core expertise and start earning money from it. I do not think a lot of even those who are really digital companies are profitable, right? So that's also a big challenge. Second would be like in my conversations, like for the past week, I've been conversing with some of my friends in the food category. So, and I myself, I have some restaurants, and when my manager would say, most of our sales are now from Grab. So what used to be, for example, so just a word of caution, I have a restaurant, my sales are around, let's say, my daily sales would be 50,000, let's say. Because of this pandemic, not too bad. I'm at around 30,000. So you have a big drop, 50 to 30,000. That's a daily, right? So in the month, it's a big money. But my operation cost went down also because of no dine-in, right?
Yeah.
So number one, if you look at it, that's more profitable. That made me more profitable. However, if you think about it, if you market to your own, that's okay. Meaning you have your Facebook page, you send out messages, people order directly. However, with Grab, Grab actually went and owned like 50-60% of my total sales. But we also know they get a big percent out of it, right? So in a way, their entire commission was took over what are the costs of running a restaurant. So then, if you look at it, you have more customers, but they're transactional. They're not like loyal customers who will eat there every time, and then your margins actually shrunk. So there's a what I call a start. We have to remanage our business in a totally new way. Even for the fast food, I would think, even the Jollibee's, McDonald's, Burger King, I think Burger King with 50-60% Grab. Nakapila na yung Grab eh. Right? There's a counter for Grab also, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not sure they're earning, for both sides, from a profit
Are there
perspective.
industries that you think could be doing better? Because clearly there are some industries that are taking a bigger hit than others, right? Like take for example, ride sharing clearly took a big hit. There's not a lot of Grabs out there anymore, and so they're making it up on the food delivery side. But also inevitably some apparel brands, some luxury brands, because people are not going to the office, we're not having to shop for work clothes as much. Uh, but are there industries where you think if they just made one small pivot, they could be doing so much better?
I think if I talk to some of the business people, the food category is generally up. Not the restaurant, not the eat out, right? But the food category, I think agriculture was a bit up also because people were actually buying, and we're now more inclined to actually, because we're cooking on our own, right? So there, the food category, anything what they call the essentials, the health essentials. No, I think I was talking to Toby's also a few months ago. So right after the quarantine, it from almost zero sales to now everyone wanting to become healthy.
Yeah.
Right. So people are buying treadmills and bicycles and everything else. Right. So that was like boosting up. So I think very specific categories along the day-to-day survival of the new norm. Right.
Are there verticals that are finding it easier to make that pivot than others? Like, do you think it's more natural for some brands to be able, or for some verticals to be able to adapt to COVID forever versus other verticals?
I think for those who are right now, you have an advantage if you're smaller. In fact, if you think about it, the bigger you are, the more OPEX you have, it's extremely hard to make a pivot. Right? So the smaller you are, the flatter your organization is. In a way, I was talking to my guys even in Conti's and Wendy's. They were saying, "Oh, it's so good that we're not as big as the others." Right? Because they're technically, even the org structure was very lean and mean. We don't have to I don't think they let go of people. I'm not sure. But we never had any discussions in their management meetings. It's just, okay, so how will we reinvent our offering? How do we move the people from the restaurant to now delivery people? Right? So it was quite easy because even for our Phoenix people, they're the gas boys. No one's gassing up. So we made an adjustment. Okay, within communities, do you want us to go into your go to your house and check your cars? And so our lubricants were up. We aligned also with our LPG. LPG is up. So there are some businesses who are again essentials. Are coming back. We even actually offered, we'll just wash your car for whatever. So in a way, we have to change from selling oil and gas to now total your car management
service, right?
Yeah. So the people doesn't mean you go away from your core. It's still your core business. It's your expertise. But now we shifted and totally created a potentially new category that later on, because we're so good now in washing cars, it's a system. So we have to go also with the marketing system to the operational system. Now we can actually go and do that within the different communities in the neighborhood.
So are size and essentials the only common denominator to the businesses that you think are getting it right?
I think for now that.
Right? What if they're larger brands? What if they're in real estate? What if they're in land development? They're rarely small.
That's going to be a bit of a challenge even for us in Clark Global City. So even if we're doing some bit of marketing, I mean, no one will be opening stores in our clothes. So we were planning this year was the opening of CGC, which is the next BGC, right? But of course, right now, ever had to lie low. People are not traveling, so that's going to be a pain for you for some time.
Yeah,
real estate will take a hit.
About getting your brand story out there. I think everybody already knows marketing is about storytelling, right? Talking about your brand's value proposition, why they should believe in your brand. And then clearly you've got Lazada and Shopee. They're super ubiquitous now on you. They're super ubiquitous everywhere, and they always have been. But what is the current best way? Like, if there were best practices, or if there were an ideal way to get your story out to your potential customers today, what would be the right way to do that now?
Well, I think you have no choice. Digital becomes the most compelling platform because all of us suddenly has just become so much glued, much more to our digital devices. Of course, with ABS-CBN not airing, that's also, we've seen so many people just tuned out. Right? We thought that they would shift. So I was talking to some of my media planning friends in the agency. So if there's 100% budget, they thought without ABS, everyone would go to the other channel, and yet it didn't. No? So there were some, but not all. I think people placed the budgets were diffused more into, again, content creation, community management, because everyone is now there. Digital. So again, search is very important because intent is there. Again, the play on Facebook and of course TikTok. Everyone started experimenting on TikTok also during that time.
Even I've been hearing a lot about TikTok in the Philippines.
Yeah. So again, those are the shifts, from marketing, new platforms.
What about brands that multi-channel? Because there are a lot of brands that are both digital and then they media buy, but they also do out of home. Yeah. I mean, is it time to park your out of home budget?
Well, I think out of home actually took a big hit also because they're saying, the advantage of out of home was the traffic, which all of us hated, but we were right. So with some of my out-of-home friends, they're saying, no one's going out. What will you put out there? I personally I have some few personal billboards. I was lucky my clients are not canceling. But they were asking, can we reduce the rates a bit? Right? Because it's out there, but no one is seeing it. Right? So again, I think for especially, and I'm good because I just have a very few personal out-of-home areas where I rent it out. I can imagine those who have 500 slots, LEDs running. I mean, you can't even, how will you pivot from there?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the LEDs and LED and it's out there and it's running.
I'll jump into a speculation part of the conversation. No? Sure. So I'm not going to ask you to make predictions, but I would say if you could bet your money on specific industries that will wind up winners in the current situation, where would you bet your money?
I think for me, I'm still very much interested in real estate. Mm-hmm. But I think they will bottom out more. Then maybe a good time to buy after. Right? Oh. I think they will bottom out more. Right now, there's now immense pressure for them because they're still there. They're hanging on. But you will realize that as this becomes normal, people just realize, work from home is okay. I don't need office space.
Yeah.
And I don't need to go.
This is part of real estate because this is actually one portion of the industry that we're looking at. And personally, to me, I find it surprising that it did take a bit of a shock, like latter part of March, a little April, but it looks like residential purchases wise, the interest to buy property is still high.
Yeah, it is. So I'm pertaining, if you look about the residential, there will be some winners and losers, right? Mm-hmm. So I think some of the losers who will need to liquidate will be selling it at a bargain price. Mm-hmm. So there's really opportunity for bargain hunting. You're talking about real estate, so maybe it can be commercial spaces, it can be office, especially if the POGOs packet, right? If they decide to leave us, and at the same time, of course, I think the residential might be a good opportunity, not because of the industry, but because of people who need to liquidate, immediately because of certain concerns.
Yeah, the Banco Central gave an interesting report, in the end of last year, and I think that accelerated so much faster. I mean, ultimately, I think things will regress to mean at some point, whether it's in mid 2021, whether it's 2022. But what do you think it will do to the digital adoption that the Filipino population has made? So clearly we went from like double-digit million transactions to triple-digit million transactions. Do you think that progress will slow down, or do you think it will just continue to accelerate from there?
I don't know. For me, that's we've created what I call a new baseline. Right? So I think it will. I don't think it will slow down. I think I would think that the best test would be, for example, like my father, finally is on Netflix. Right? He's a 71-year-old. Finally, he's enjoying Netflix with my mom, who would never thought they would go Netflix. Who would never thought that they would pay online to order something, to order a siomai in Binondo. Right? So
I also just recently discovered Netflix. Yeah. She's never used her credit card, and then in this one instance, now her TV, she's got a tablet on it. Even they're adopting.
Yep. So even the older segment is a big chunk. Once they start learning, they also have good money. That's a big chunk of money there. The 55 and above, the 60 and above, who are not, they look at digital. They can't imagine putting their credit card number there. Now they will start, and then of course you will see the younger ones. I think, but however, the overall effect, the economy has shrunk. So it has to, you need time to build it up. But in terms of digitizing, you will see more transactions becoming digital. It's so normal for us already. Oh, we'll deliver, just send me the money. Right? So from bank to bank or in whatever way, if you use GCash, fine. Right? But that has become a new normal. Before you don't see that. Before there has to be go to the bank and deposit and send me the deposit slip.
Yeah. Right? There are actually less CODs now. There are more people that are more open to online transactions. Yes. Which I think is a big deal because for the longest time, 15% of merchants accept credit cards. Only 1 in 3 Filipinos can pay online.
Yeah.
And that's considering we were one of the first countries to begin adopting online payments in 2001. Right? So it's about time, I think, that the Philippines got caught up. Yeah. If you had 3 top pieces of advice for brands or companies to be doing now, what would they be?
I think the first is really to accept the reality, right? So the 4 stages of grief, right? So denial, and then you have anger, bargaining, and then you accept. Once you accept, then you move on, right? You have to move on. So many, I even have so many of my friends who still cannot accept that the reality today, and their business is literally on pause. But he's burning money. So sometimes you go, no, I cannot let go of my people. I can go, but sometimes you have to make the tough decision. It's business. You enjoy the good part of it, but sometimes if the economy do this to you, you have to adjust, right? So acceptance is one. What is the new norm, and what would be the business that you will align to the new normal, right? So I think that's first. Second, I think for any business, I would again reiterate many times, cash is king. Which means for you to survive, you have to make sure that you have enough cash to survive like the next 3 to 6 months. But at the same time, every transaction counts. So gone are the days where I would think you need to build a brand, you need to build the emotional connection. Now, for the short term, it's all about the transaction, going after the transaction.
Because loyalty is currently harder to earn now, right?
Yeah. Because people are trying, and there are just too many platforms.
Yeah.
There are just too many platforms and too many Instagram accounts and Facebook accounts and everything else, which are competing, right? So you want a certain level of loyalty, but again, I think right now it's really, rather than going after a returning customer, which I think is important, but you have to keep on aggressively getting new ones in also, right? Continue to be a novelty. I think the third is really, if I started with never let a crisis go to waste, it's also a good time for all of you, the management, the board of directors, the owners of business, really get together. I mean, most of you, for the first time this year, you got together more often when you counted and you combined it to the entire years of operation. So I have a company who we're 10 years in operations and we only meet once a year. And because of this pandemic, we met like 20 times already. Right? So we met up more often because of the problems of our business, rather than a once a year meeting. So I think it's a good time. Do not underestimate to leverage the talent, the experience, the grief, the challenges everyone has went through. But you need to reinvent the business and you need the entire board, the entire management. This is not going to be easy for all of us. And I'm literally saying it's for all of us. Some may be a bit up, but the challenges we all face, because we are all interconnected. Our businesses, the economy, we say, we're small business, we will be affected. People are not in the malls. Someone is not spending. People are working from home. So the entire economy just tilted to the other side, right? So maybe, it's important for us to do our share also in helping whatever we can. But at the same time, our business is the one that matters, that we need to make it viable for the long term. No, it's really planning, incubating, re-incubating again.
Yeah, it's what puts food on the table of your employees, their family. I've got a personal question. I often get asked, and I actually don't know how to answer it the right way, if there's a right way to answer it. There are clients that ask us, what can we do digitally to get back to 100%? And personally for me, I don't know how to answer that responsibly. So if I ask you, like, what would be a responsible way for answering that when they're saying, are there tactics, are there strategies that I can do to get as close to pre-pandemic cash flows, pre-pandemic revenues as I can? What's a good answer to that, but realistic answer to that?
Well, I think like what I said earlier, we have to accept first where we are. We have to accept first that the pre-pandemic level will take time, right? So I think if you think about it realistically, let's put it at 12 months, because that will not happen this month. This will not happen even in the Burr months. We're looking at the Burr months might give us at best up to 80% at best to what should be the normal level. But then you will have to contend with the January slump again.
Yeah.
Right? That's a normal slump, right? January, February. So again, and the effects of unemployment is just too high. So without money coming in and circulating within the country, you will see already not much production, not much spending, and therefore not much advertising. So I think when people will advertise, number one, it's still important for me to do a bit of sales and marketing. You still need to go for every lead, right? So I think performance-based would be so important now, right? But at the same time, you have to be wary also. It's not going to be, you will reach your maximum level of spending ROI for every potential customer faster, only because once you reach a certain level, the returns will be the same already. Right? So you have to be more
market segments that are better to target in the current situation versus others, right? Like should people be focusing on aspiring Bs, B, A, or is it really just across the board? Like your expectations have to be set that everybody's pretty much affected the same way.
Well, actually, the what do I call the A's remain A. One of our I don't know if I can say this, but actually one of our companies is the Maserati, right? So we have the franchise. Udena has a franchise for Maserati and Ferrari. Last, I think, June, we sold 3 Maseratis when we were just selling once, at most one a month. Right?
Yeah, you're right.
So what happened, right? So we were thinking the A's remain A's. I think they're the ones who maybe have the money. They took advantage of this opportunity. I don't know how they did it, because I can't disclose who bought it, and I don't know, right? So but the A's remain A's. You're seeing that the DEs are pushed down, and you have the C2, C1, C2. They're the ones struggling, going up and down in that circle. So I think when you have to target, you still have to stay true to who your product is targeting. I don't see that if you're this specific product, let's go after the A, because you will be too far from your core already. Right? So I think it's still a function of how you do marketing, how you reach the customer faster. So you will see so many people doing, from a distribution perspective, they're reaching out. They're trying their best to go. If they can sell door to door, they will do it. Right? But I'm always very fascinated, right, in the malls, right, when they in the lobby in the like the big area where they already have like Kenny Rogers, all the other restaurants, they're selling. Order your takeout here. Right? Yeah. They have different foods and they're selling. So okay, so they're trying to be nearer to the customer in their own way.
Yeah, and I think some of them are actually already doing a pretty good job. I don't think the volumes will ever be the same as it was pre lockdown. But the fact that I think businesses are adapting is a good sign that, because there are good signs that the economy is still running, and you're right. I think ultimately we will come to accept that this is what it is, and denying it is not going to help anybody. I'm going to ask for a couple of final thoughts after we run through some of the questions, but we've got some interesting questions, and so I'll start going through them. So I'll open up the chat box for any of you that have not left any of your questions. Feel free to do so now. But I've got a few in already. So this one is a common question. It's asked a couple of times over the session. So, and I think I'll bunch them together. The first question is, how much budget should we be allocating to digital? And then the follow-up question to that is, how do I convince my decision maker to see it the same way? So let's start with the budget they should be allocating to digital. How do they know that?
I don't know if I'll be biased towards digital, but I think right now it's more obvious that you should need to go digital because that's the bottom of the funnel, which means the closest to conversion. So, as a traditional marketing person, number one, I always tell people, I'm marketing, I'm not digital. It just so happens, I understand digital more so than a normal marketer. But if you think about it, we all know that as a marketing person, brand building is important, creating a relationship with the customer. And that's why you need to do what we call IMC, the integrated marketing communication. But as your budgets are lower, you need to do the conversion faster. And that's why I think I'm predisposed to digital. I just opened up a small takeout. It's called Chami in Mandaluyong. And it's all Facebook. And then we might do search by next month, but it's going to be that. I wouldn't even attempt to do OH or without prejudice to any of these ATL platforms. But for me as an entrepreneur, it's going to be bang for a buck, right? So bang for my buck, which means it's going to be the most hardworking to turn to all the way from the level of awareness all the way to the purchase, right? And I cannot do that with usually TV, radio, print, or whatever, and then do digital. I don't have that luxury today. So I think all the more you can convince, it's easier to convince your boss now. Because with so much limited budget, the only way to do it is to do digital. It's a process to conversion.
Should there be a science they go through to figure out what that figure should be, right? If they're expecting, let's say, 100,000 in revenue per day, let's say 1 million in revenue per month, how much of that should be allocated to digital?
I always say it varies per industry, but as we all know, it's 1 to 5%. Right, depending on your sales. So in the end, as a business owner, I will still manage my profitability, my profit margin. Yeah. So there's a line item on marketing where I can play 1 to 3% usually, right? But if you're at the 1 million, then obviously you have a 1%. No, that's usually 10,000 to maybe you can bump it up to 50,000 a month.
Yeah, your 1% is actually a big deal if your cash flow is like even if your margins I think are conservative. 1% of a million is still a lot of money.
Yes.
Another question I got is, if it's my first time or we're new to digital, how do I know if I've got a good vendor or if the vendor is as good as they claim?
Well, there's no way around that. I think you just have to ask around from credible people. I think sometimes you have to learn on the job and learn along the way. Yeah. I always tell people, do not trust, of course, vendor number one. You always have to ask around. Sometimes that's why I was with an agency before. I really hate my clients if they have all of us agencies compete because there's no AOR. So we always would have been competing, but then there's sometimes a business logic to it, right? Yeah. Because every time we would have to showcase our best, right? And we will try to outdo the other. So maybe after all,
that ask you, do you have a referral I can talk to, or do you guys have a business that I can talk to that can tell me what their experience with you is like?
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you go for the blue chip agencies, I mean, they're okay, right? I mean, they know what works, right? But if you want to work if you think you're smaller, then you have to really do your homework. And if you want to work with boutique, smaller agencies, you maybe just have to talk to 2 or 3 or 4, and just have make a bet with a level of comfort with a certain group, right? right? But I won't be endorsing any. But all of them are my friends. But in one way, I think this is that problem is like 2010, 2011, 2012. There are so many boutique agencies, but right now I think most agencies would have to actually they can't survive if they're not good right now.
That's true. No, I agree. I think all of the weaker actors are already gone.
Yeah,
Those are the ones now that even we interact with, and we partner with them a lot.
Yeah.
It's the demand in the market is so high that I would say we are outnumbered.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Even if we work with Laurent's company or Jay's, the guys, and Shane's company, even if we all work together, there's not enough of us to service the demand in digital all around. So we've never really been cutthroat competitive. Actually, I think it's a very cooperative industry.
Yeah.
All the people at IMAP know each other.
Yes. Yeah. True.
So there's another question that says, if we don't really know how to measure the impact of digital, how do we know it's working? Is it always improvement in revenue?
I think it shouldn't be the only measure, but again, these are different times. You should be monitoring your increase in revenue. In all my talks pre-COVID, I would always say that, for example, like a big company like Coca-Cola, when we do digital for them, we measure what is called a brand lift, right? So people prefer it more than whatever, right? So there are many marketing measures. So, but if it is today, I would suggest you have to go after conversion, meaning get people. If it's not a buy, meaning if they don't buy, at least get them into your Facebook, your website, your store. That has to be a very important conversion.
I've got a conversion follow-up question from the people that are with us in the session. And the question is, aside from doing standard socials, what would be the best platform that allows you to target high net worth individuals?
For me, if it's high net worth, like for example, when we were doing planning for, again, I don't know kung high net worth ang Maserati and Ferrari, but if you look at it, there's nothing digital there. Digital is incidental. It's a support function. High net worth is really relationships.
Right.
Unless you're targeting, for example, top 1,000 corporate CEOs, right? But at the same time, that's really relationship. If you're in the private equity business, private banking, insurance, mga financial services, and you want to target high net worth, it's really connections more than anything.
Yeah, I agree. I think for the A market, it really is more about who you know than how you message, because their trust levels are high within their circles. There's a follow up to that. Is there a right way to advertise on social media and avoid looking scammy? Like, are there signals for how they do their messaging, their imagery, their advertising, so that they can avoid looking scammy or low quality?
I think right now, well, it's not that. I think right now, if you're depends, if you're a known brand or not. No, there are some who are known brand, like for example, fast food. If you're like a Shakey's or a Jollibee or McDo, then it's really just to announce a promotions, and we've seen so many of that, right? And so that's okay. Right? If you're a new brand, then you want to advertise, then you have to build your brand story. Then it could be maybe showing your face, or this is the recipe of my grandmother. Now I want to put it to life given this pandemic. There has to be a setup of a story first.
Yeah.
Because then a recipe is food is food, right? So I think you just have to fast forward your entire marketing process, and it means also what's important when you you want to move to becoming a brand immediately. Because a brand is something people trust, right? You need to leverage on word of mouth. You need to leverage on key platforms. So open up your Facebook so that when you, for example, market, then people can see also the testimonials around within.
Yeah. What about high ticket purchases, like for real estate, which is another question? Considering that people are not too keen to let go of their cash so much, because they don't know about the level of certainty. How do you attract new clients? How do you allay that fear? Like if somebody was looking to, like, let's say somebody gave themselves a personal target of, I'm going to buy my dream home in 2020, and then pandemic happens. How do you convince them that it's still a good time to purchase? In fact, it might be a best time to purchase, considering that everybody's trying to sell stuff.
in that kind of a game, I always feel that it's important to be their part, what they call a partner in achieving their dreams, whatever that dreams are, right? Whatever that dream is, or if it's a buying a home, it's what is more important is for you to cement that relationship. It means that you don't hard sell because everyone is hard times. So, for example, if someone wants to buy the dream house, what I would do is I would keep on providing them all the opportunities out there without hard selling any. Because I think right now, trust is the most important element today, more than ever. Right? So if you do not develop that trust and you want to hard sell, for sell because you want to make a quick buck, then you lose that customer. So for me, it's all about generating, focusing on trust. It's okay to lose a bit now, and that's fine. You're amassing and building and planting seeds. The great pause today, 2020, is planting the right seeds right now. Right? Rather than trying to, as you plant right seeds, it will snowball. And I think I can guarantee that.
Like, I think the reasons why we buy are pretty much still the same, right? It's still about
Yep.
it's still about resonating with the brand, trusting your salesman. I don't think the reasons for why we buy have changed. It's just the method by which we make the acquisitions.
Yeah.
We've got a question that came in from Facebook Live. And the question is digital marketing better for small businesses and startups? Or do we just go with social media marketing? So I guess that's two questions, but I guess the first question there is digital marketing more appropriate to startups and small businesses?
It will always depend on the audience. So I would assume that if you're a retailer, then of course digital is of course the fastest and the easiest way. Create a social media account, social media page, you boost it within certain geographies, and that's it, right? And you move from there. No, but always remember the product is as important as the message. The promo is as important as the message. Getting them into the store is very important.
Yeah, I agree. There's a few more, and I'm going to try to squeeze as many of them as I can, like while we've got time. Somebody says, is there a certain revenue size or cash flow volume you have to consider to when you're ready to begin to do digital? Like, is there a certain amount of revenue you need to be generating before you consider digital a feasible marketing strategy for you?
No. I work with a lot of SMEs. Some are totally just starting up with zero revenues, and they know that they have to set up a social media page, they have to boost, they have to sell, right? So I don't think the marketing can wait for you to reach a right size. No,
Yeah.
again, broadly, you have to do market. That's part of business.
Yeah, there's two content questions that came in. One is I compete with some really big brands. Uh, how can I carve a niche for myself in digital when the bigger brands can always outspend me?
Yeah. So it's always the platform, choosing the right platform, and what is the messaging, right? So if the share of voice, if it's very hard, then you go a different platform. Unless you're forced, for example, if it's Facebook and everyone's there, then that's when you start doing your TikTok or whatever. Right? I mean, or
I'll jump into that again because when we say the right platform, I think to you and me it's easy to figure that out. But for the people that don't do it day in and day out, how do they know if they've chosen the right platform?
well, good. That's a good question. I think number one, you have to identify first your target audience. Of course, if I'm targeting anyone 30 and above, the TikTok may not be the right platform already, right? No,
Yeah.
bias to the 30, right? I mean, we're not there, but again, for the younger audiences. So if it's for a certain segment, then maybe Facebook will still be okay, Instagram will still be okay. Then it's very hard to market. And that's why you have to go into the different Viber communities. No, I think you have to boost a bit. But what is important, I would always say that people always forget that the most important part of digital is word of mouth. People recommending you, people sharing your page, people giving people something to talk about, right? So I think like what you said, from a content perspective, though, so I'm looking at this question here, how do you stand out? The most important part is really is creating a content plan that would really make you stand out. If people are spelling, if someone is they're selling spaghetti, how do you create a different kind of spaghetti so people would talk about it? Right. So then it would boil down to the product also, right? Unless you, for example, want to invest with influencers. So that's a different play again. If you want them to promote you.
There's another question here about picking out the right digital marketing channels, the right digital marketing ads? Like, how do you test if you're headed in the right direction in terms of your selection for your channels? Like, how do you know it's hitting your target market? And how do you make gathering of data easier, given that your access to, I don't know, your agency, your analytics vendor, and whatnot are a bit limited currently? So, what are some good indicators to know that your messaging and your digital channel are the right selections for you?
If you're coming from a businessman perspective, if you're not working with an agency who has the tools to monitor, I would suggest you make it simple first. You have to identify one or two channels. Then again, the rule book will always tell you that be on top. If you're a businessman, you have to be on top of your marketing platforms, your marketing channels, and you optimize from there. If you think it's not working, you don't wait for it to work. If it's not working in 2 to 3 days, then you start to pivot already also.
Right.
But I always tell them. I remember I had a digital marketing seminar with SMEs.
Mhm.
So whenever they come to me, I would, and some are actually a bit old, 50s and above, right? And they had so many questions that they're throwing to me, and I said, you had so many questions. The first thing is you just ask your kid. You ask your children to answer it, and maybe I'm going to ask them, have you started a Facebook page for your brand? Have you started? So totally zero, eh. So I said, ask your kid to do it. They'll teach you more. In fact, it's good to make them part of your business and start working on it, both of you together. You bring the perspective of the core, of the business. Your kid will bring in the perspective of of understanding the platform very well.
Yeah. I've been doing a couple of...
Especially for those SMEs now, they cannot afford a...
Yeah, go ahead.
No, so I'm saying, if those who do not have agency, those who do not have the luxury of working even with a boutique agency, you really have to get family members or whoever to come in, right, and support you.
I've been doing some experiments with a few SMBs lately, just to test out how good digital could be for smaller businesses. And even the results on SMEs are like surprising to me. And these are just two friends that partnered up, and they distribute beauty products and whatnot. You never would have thought that it was two guys behind this brand, but they are going outside of their comfort zone. They're creating the marketing content. They have no idea how to do it. One of them have a girlfriend, but they try over and over again, and you see them adjusting their campaigns. I would say twice a week, and I think that's one of the advantages of digital, where you don't have to wait. Oh, let's wait 30 days. Oh, let's wait 2 months before we make an adjustment. You can actually make an adjustment in days, in a week.
Yeah.
So I think, given that we're at 4:15 and we're going to hit the marker of the 4:15 time, I'm going to give you the last few minutes, like parting words, advice for everybody listening. If they had top 1, top 2, top 3 takeaways to take out of this conversation, what would you want them to leave this session with, like remembering?
I think this is the time. We're going through a what we call, again, the black swan event. These are hard times. That's a given, right? And sometimes I know that when we look around, these are, we never imagined that we will experience this in our lifetime. That when you go out, people are in face masks and face shields. That when you look at it, you have a friend who got sick, who actually got unemployed, or who lost a business, right? And many others. But that's the reality we have to accept and face. Our business have to continue. So again, focus on the essentials, right? So it's going to be, rather than always saying business for the long term, we have to prepare our business for the short term, because we have to, the next 6 months is very crucial for all of us, right? Especially for SMEs, especially if you're a medium business. It's like go or no go, right? You will reach a stage where you have to make a major decision. So the sooner you accept the current situation, the sooner you make key decisions, maybe it's easier for you for your business to move forward. Right? And that's why I'm sure you've seen so many companies already making quick decisions, whether they close down their stores first, they would not operate, they would not charge this, so that they survive. Survive the short term, so that you will be there for the long term. Right? I think for everyone, it's also very important for all of us to just be nice, to be kind, to be helpful, right? Because again, these are unprecedented times, right? To be kind and helpful to others would allow all of us to grow. Because here, you cannot grow just by yourself. The entire economy and everyone else will have to grow with us, right? So I think let's share whatever we have, and at the same time see how we can help one another. Okay? But again, business right now, short term conversion, use digital. I mean, that's going to be they're going to be very stable moving forward.
All right, and I think with that, those are very good takeaways. We actually recorded the session in case anybody wanted to go back to it and come back to the advice. I think worst thing that any business can do right now is stay on business as usual, because clearly the things that we were doing 6 months ago are not the things that will help us survive today. And I think if people want to keep this conversation going, we've also invited other people. Jonas will be talking with us a couple of months from now. Next month, I think we've got Javi of LBC. And he'll also give practical advice in terms of digitally transforming their business, what he thinks are the current essentials. Yep. I hope everybody else joins us. Donald, thank you for the time this afternoon. It was a great conversation. I wish we had more time, but I appreciate the hour you spent with us. Also, for everybody that's currently in the session, I appreciate your time. And with that, thank you very much. Good afternoon to everybody in Facebook. Have a great day, Donald, for the rest of your day. I'm sure it's still packed. And have a great day to everybody. We'll see you guys on the next Truelogic DX.
Thank you.
Cheers.